Hello, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make a cheap, healthy dog food. It's homemade and it's grain-free. So on my channel I talk a lot about hot spots and itchy skin because it's something unfortunately I have a lot of experience with. If you have not seen my videos on that, go to the playlist, go to hotspots, and I talk through the whole story of hot spots and itchy skin. But one of the things that is a fact with hotspots is that dogs need to be on a grain-free food. But unfortunately, grain-free food is really, it's expensive. It costs money. And so I kept getting contacted by people saying, it's costing too much. What am I supposed to do? My dog's having hotspots. And so I had to come out with a solution. And the solution is this recipe that I'm about to give you. I've worked it out that it will cost you £1 a day. So at the moment, with feeding my dogs on grain-free wet food, it costs me £3 a day. And I've got that down to £1 a day with this recipe. And it's grain-free and really, really healthy. So let me show you it. Okay, so I hunted high and low around all of our supermarkets, and surprisingly, the cheapest meat that I found was chicken, but it has to be frozen. So chicken pieces in the frozen section, and I got this from Tesco's, and this cost me £4 for a kilo of frozen chicken pieces like this, no bone in them, and the ones I'm using now haven't got any skin. But some of the ones I got do have skin, and it's important that you take the skin off because the way we're going to cook it is in the oven to make it nice and quick, and boiled skin would be absolutely disgusting. So take the skin off or get some with no skin. I would really highly recommend that you do not roast the chicken, and certainly do not roast it with the skin on. The fat content will be so high you could really do damage to the dog's pancreas. So do not roast this chicken. It must be boiled. So like I said, I went to all the supermarkets in our, well, not all the supermarkets, but you know, I did Lidl, Sainsbury's, Tesco, Aldi. I did them all, and it's all about the same. So for £4, you can get a kilo of frozen chicken pieces. And I imagine, you know, from talking to some of you, that that's pretty much going to be the same across the world. But I would appreciate your finds on that. If you go for fresh chicken, it's so much more expensive. And I was so shocked that chicken was the thing. I thought turkey was going to be the thing that I would end up using. But no, chicken is the thing. Minced turkey, it was really hard to find that frozen. And fresh, that was about £4 for 500 grams. So it was almost double the price, really. So by far, frozen chicken from the frozen section, deboned, and some had skin on it and some didn't. The next thing is vegetables. So again, from the frozen section, really nice and cheap. And one of the things I did get, sort of in the bottom here somewhere, was sweet potato, chunks of sweet potato, because sweet potato is really good for dogs, and it's really good in a dog, you know, it's nice and tasty. If you can be bothered, then buy sweet potatoes. It would be cheaper, and peel them and boil them. But that was just a load of faff that I couldn't be bothered with. And so I just bought chunks of sweet potato in the frozen section. And then I just bought some cauliflower and broccoli, and then just a mixed bag. You don't have to be too fussy with the vegetables. But, oh, actually, in a minute, I'm just going to read through the stuff, vegetables and stuff you absolutely cannot feed dogs. I'll do that in a minute. Yeah, so just a mix of vegetables. And again, you know, that was really cheap. I think it was 80p for a 200 gram of mixed vegetables. So that worked out really cheap. So between the chicken and the vegetables, it's going to come to £1 per day to feed a dog that is 10 kilograms. So for me, I'm going to save an absolute fortune on this, because the other dog foods that I were using, they were grain-free and really good quality, and it was costing me £9 a day to feed my dogs, and now it will be costing me £3 a day. The other thing about this is, so I use two different grain-free wet foods at the moment. One of them, 80% of it is meat and 20% of it is vegetables, and the other 60% is meat, and then 40% is vegetables. But I'm really quite happy to drop down to have feed my dogs where 50% of it is meat and 50% of it is vegetables. If you don't understand about dog food ingredients and dog composition, I've done go to playlists, go to feeding dogs, and go to understanding dog food ingredients, because in there I talk to you about dog composition and how to understand the back of a packet. And if you go and have a look at the dog food that you're feeding your dogs now, you need to look for the composition. It might say ingredients. It might be ingredients, but it's normally composition. And have a look. And some of the dog foods I've looked at, like some of you have contacted me and asked me to have a look at their dog food, and it's been shocking because it's been like 12%, and that's really shocking. So if you can get your dog, if they're on a food where there actually only is 12% meat in it, and you can get them from that up to 50%. That really makes me very excited, because I think your dog, well, I don't think it, I know it, dogs are going to feel so much better. I'm excited to see how much better dogs feel and how it stops the itchy skin and the hot spots. And for £1 a day, I mean, you can't knock that. £1 a day, it's £5 a week. You know, it's really, it's not much money at all. And your dog is going to not have hot spots anymore, and that you can't put money on that. It's going to make your life so much nicer not to have dogs on hot spots. And you can see this is just so clean. Now in a minute I want to talk to you about calcium, because we do need to add calcium to this. So I'm going to put these on, and then I'm going to explain to you about how we're going to get that calcium, and I want to talk to you about coconut oil as well. Right, so I'm going to cook them in the oven, simply because I can't be bothered. If I put them on the hob, I've got to be hanging around while they're cooking. And I don't want to do that. I want this to be as quick and simple as possible. So I just want it to be something that I just gets into my routine. Just do it, bung it in the oven, and it's just really, really easy. So what I'm going to do is so I've put them obviously into the oven dishes here. And I'm going to just pour boiling water. So I'm going to cover them, you know, as much as I can with boiling water, and definitely the chicken. I'm going to cover all the chicken with boiling water, and then I'm going to get them in the oven. So I'll put the boiling water on now, and then I'll come back and show you. So I've added boiling water to them, so you can see almost nearly covered, and I've just added a few herbs. These were just herbs that I had. Herbs, you know, it doesn't make much difference really. I'm just adding them because herbs are good for dogs, and it will just add a bit of taste. So these were just herbs that I had. Again, just Tesco's, just, you know, cheap herbs. They really don't cost a lot, and if you were buying them just for this purpose, they would last you a long, long time. I just put a pinch on top of the vegetables. Now with the chicken that I got said that it was best cooked from frozen, which suits me, because if I had to remember to get this chicken out to defrost it, I guarantee you I wouldn't remember, and it would become a right pain in the neck. So I am always going to buy chicken that I can cook from frozen. The other thing is, I'm not going to do this every day. I'm going to cook in batches like this. So I haven't been too fussy about how much chicken or how much vegetables are in these pans. I'm just bunging it in and getting them cooked. I will get fussy and very particular about weighing it out when I'm doing the portions, which you'll see me do. But for now, I'm just going to bung these in the oven. The frozen chicken, obviously because it's frozen, it's going to take longer. So that's going to go in for about 45 minutes. The vegetables I'll stick in, and then I'll just check them, and then I'll tell you how long they took. If you are trying to save money, which we all are, I would put these in. If you're cooking dinner in the oven, then just put this sort of stuff in while you're cooking dinner. And I do not be doing this every day. Cook it in a big batch like this, and then if you've only got one dog, this is going to last you a long time. So just cook it in a big batch like this, and then I'll talk to you about how I'm going to batch it up and freeze it and all of that. I'll talk to you about all of that in a minute. So I'm going to put this in the oven now, so roughly for about 45 minutes. Actually, quick note before I put the vegetables in, make sure that you don't buy a casserole mix, because they'll include onions, and onions are toxic to dogs. So no onions and no garlic. Right, so that's all in. I thought I'd just show you Rosie, our tortoise. She's having a wandering around while I'm cooking. Dogs need to have calcium. It's really important. And so we've got to get calcium into this recipe. And the way that we're going to do that is with eggshell, because eggshell is pure calcium, and so it's the best way to do it. So I've worked out all the maths of it and how much calcium dogs need per meal. And I've worked it out, it's roughly half of one eggshell. So I've got a few eggs here. Right, now the important thing to remember is with eggs is that the membrane inside can contain salmonella. They don't always, but they can contain salmonella. Dogs can catch salmonella, and obviously we can, and it makes you very, very ill and something you want to avoid. So don't give the eggshells to the dogs raw. You've got to cook them. So if the egg has been boiled, and you have peeled the egg that way, and the shell has come off the egg that has been boiled, then you're fine, because the egg shell got cooked while you were boiling the egg. But if, like these eggshells here, these came off eggs that were cracked because they were fried, these eggshells haven't been cooked, and so they've got to be cooked. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook them for 10 minutes at the end. Excuse me. Sorry, I've got a tortoise wandering around on my foot here. I'm going to put these in with the vegetables 10 minutes at the end, and I'm going to put them in where the water is, so they're cooking under the water like they would as if they were boiling. That's really important. And then I'm going to put half of one eggshell per meal. So I've got to, that won't really matter. And so how I'm going to get around that is I'm going to weigh all the food up into the different portions, put it into the dog bowl, and then on top of that I am going to crack the eggshell. Surprisingly, they eat it. It's quite surprising. You can mix it in then if you want to, but what I'm saying is don't put the eggshell in, don't break the eggshell up into the mix, because you're never going to know if your ratio's right. And this is a really important part of this recipe, that they get half an eggshell every day. So you might be eating a lot of eggs, but it is an important part of doing it. Right, so that's out of the oven. It took me, in the end, it was about 50 minutes. And the vegetables cook for the same amount of time as the chicken, because I wanted the vegetables to be really soft, because it's easier to digest for the dog to digest. And also, the dog, I wanted to mash them all up, because one of my dogs eats really, really fast. And so I have to mash his food all up and then spread it all out on a plate, which you'll see when I feed the boys. And to do that, I need the food wet. I also think it's just a much nicer consistency for the dogs to eat. Something I want to say is that if you decide to change the meat that you're going to use, because sometimes I'm going to mix this up a bit, so I'll use different meats. But what's important is that you don't use pork, because pork is a fatty meat, and the fat content in it causes all sorts of problems for dogs, and it causes problems with their pancreas. So never feed a dog pork, it's too fatty. Beef, if you are doing this to stop hotspots, for some reason that I'm not too sure of, beef causes hotspots. I've hunted high and I can never find an answer to it, but I know for a fact that beef can aggravate hotspots. White fish can also aggravate hotspots. Goodness knows why, but it does, and I've seen it with my dog that it can do. You can use salmon, but obviously that's going to get really expensive. But you could use turkey and you could use lamb, and I will sometimes mix between those two. So now I'm going to cut this chicken up into really small pieces. I'm just going to use 2 spoons, split it all up with 2 spoons, and then get some scissors and then get in there and just cut it up all nice and small. And the meat, the vegetables, I'll cut it all up and then mash it out. And you can see there that I've got my eggshells in there cooked. So I'll do all of that and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've chopped it all up. I've suddenly got some little helpers with me. Suddenly appeared. Now something interesting has happened. So you can see here that I've chopped the chicken up really small. So I just separated it all with 2 spoons and then went over it with some scissors just to get it nice and small. And then the vegetables, I just mashed them up. So I left a tiny bit of water in the bottom and mashed them up. And because I cooked them for, I think it was 45 minutes in the end, they mashed up really, really easily, which is a great consistency for the dogs to eat. However, what's happened is when I've gone to weigh it, so I've weighed it out. So that's 400, not quite 400 grams there. See, 400 grams is how much food my dogs normally eat in a day. But that looks like way too much food to me. Way too much food for, you know, I mean, my dogs aren't big. They're, you know, reasonably small dogs. That looks like way too much food to me, for them. So all I can assume is that in the wet food, it contains a lot of water. I mean, I knew wet food contained water, but it must have contained a lot of water, because there's no way I'm feeding them this much every day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them down to 300 grams a day. So I'm going to take all my dogs down to 300 grams, which technically brings the cost down. But that isn't what this is about. This is about making sure they've got enough to eat. So I'm going to take them down to 300 grams. So I will be doing 150 grams of the chicken and 150 grams of the vegetable per meal. No, per day, per dog. I feed my dogs 3 times a day. So I'll just be splitting this out throughout the day. So let me just say that one more time. So I'm going to be feeding a 10 kilogram dog 300 grams of this a day. Split however you want. So that isn't actually 300 grams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remeasure this and get back to you. Right, so with some of you, you might actually be having to guess a little bit at how much to feed your dog. And obviously, dogs have different energy levels. And so my 300 grams for every 10 kilogram of dogs might not apply to all dogs. Harry's here, look at maybe... Are you going to get up on the table? Do you know I'm being recording you and it's going up on YouTube? And everyone saw you nearly go to jump up on the table there. Acting like you wouldn't do it. You would. Oh, it's because there's a... I know why he's doing this on the table. I've just seen he wants. Right, anyway. So, what I'm going to do is, on Thursday, I'm going to put a video out about how to know if you're feeding your dog enough. And I'm going to talk about, you know, is he too fat? Is he too skinny? How he's behaving during the day? How he's behaving around meal times? And just different little signs that I've picked up over the years that make me think, oh, my dog's hungry, or he's not really that hungry. And I will go through all of that in a video of you on Thursday, because it's just too much now. But this is what I'm going on. 300 grams of this food per 10 kilograms of dog. If you are confused about how much to feed your dog, and, you know, your dog weighs this, I don't know how much to feed him or whatever, just pop me and message me in comments, and I'll help you out with that. But yeah, so because the thing is, some dogs will run around more, some dogs won't run around so more, some will be old, be young. So it might not always apply to all dogs. But I'll do the video and that will be out on Thursday. Different signs so that you'll know. I'll get that out on Thursday for you. Right, so what I did there was, when I fed the dogs earlier today, I held back a bit of their food so they didn't have their full amount. And then you can see there, I just gave them a little bit of that food to see what they thought of it. And you can see they loved it. So no problems there at all. Very happy with that. Okay, here we are. So here's my final thoughts. So I've weighed it all up and I've put it into these foil containers, which I can just keep washing. If it was for human food, I wouldn't just keep washing them and reusing them. But for dogs, I'm going to keep reusing them, and they've just got lids. So let me just go over it again. I did 300 grams per day per 10 kilogram dog. Half of that, so 150 grams were chicken, and 150 grams of it were the vegetables. Then I put half of an eggshell, so one egg, half of that eggshell I broke up on the top of each one. This has come in at £1.25 and not £1 a portion. That is because I was expecting to get 5 portions out of that chicken and that vegetables, and I only got 4. The other thing was I bought sweet potatoes, which were £1.50 a bag. But you can just get a mixed bag of vegetables for 80p. So you could easily have this down to £1 by not using the sweet potato and just getting a bag of mixed vegetables. So all in all, I'm pleased with that. Whether what the time scale on it and the faffiness of it, I think as with anything, once I get used to doing it, it won't seem like a faff. I'll just chuck it in the oven. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a mix of some days they'll have this and some days they will have their the wet food that they were on, the grain-free wet food. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I'm ever not feeling very well, or I don't know, something happens where their food isn't made, I don't want it to, for their digestive system, I don't want it to suddenly be a shock, to be going back onto the wet dog food. But if you're feeding your dog a food that's got grains in it and your dog has hotspots, I really, really wouldn't recommend that you do that. Because even if you gave your dog the dog food 2 or 3 times a week, that's enough to keep the hotspots going. So if you've got a dog that's got hotspots or like itchy skin, you really need to be doing this every day, and I can guarantee you will see your dog's hotspots disappear. I've done it and I've helped. I can't even tell you how many dogs I've helped. And it's about getting them off that grain, dog food with grain in it. I just want to quickly talk to you about coconut oil. So if you are doing this because your dog's got hotspots, then I would highly recommend that you get yourself some coconut oil. This was a big factor in getting Albert, all his hotspots cleared up. And I just buy it when I do my food shopping, just a jar of coconut oil. That will last you for so long. It's absolutely rock hard. You have to really work hard at getting it out. It lasts you for so long, or you can get it on Amazon. Get the organic stuff because you don't want pesticides in it. And it's got all sorts of real good stuff in there that gets in and kills the stuff that makes the hotspots. I know that isn't a very technical explanation, but trust me, it works really, really well. So if you're, it's good for all dogs, but if you've got a dog with hotspots, then I would highly recommend that. Be careful if you've got a dog. So like I've got Albert, who suffered with hotspots early on, but 2 other dogs have never had hotspots, and they both have a tendency to get fat. So I don't give them the coconut oil. That just goes onto Albert's food. If you do want to do something else to stop your dogs getting itchy, sorry, I've got dogs and tortoises all around my feet. Right, so the other thing that I do is I just buy a tin of pink salmon and I add a spoonful of that to their dinner every day. Obviously, from a cost perspective, that's going to go through the roof because it is expensive. But, you can take or leave that. It doesn't matter. But if your dog's itchy or's got hotspots, then a spoonful of that with their dinner really, really helps. Salmon oil is very good for dogs that have itchy skin. So all in all, I'm very pleased with it. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Yeah, I just got to get used to doing it. Get on with it. Get used to doing it. Which I will do, because I remember I decided. Sorry, I've got Harry being a pain. Harry's barking. He's got a toy stuck. I remember I decided I was going to get a bread maker and I was going to start making my own bread because I didn't want to eat all the preservatives that were in bread. I needed to cut. I'm of an age where I need to think about stuff like that. So I wanted to make myself bread with a bread maker, and to begin with, it was so faffy and it took forever. But now I don't even have to look. I just know the ingredients. It's done within seconds. I don't even have to think about it. And that's where I'll get with this. It'll just be something that I just quickly do. It doesn't take any time at all. And it's saving a fortune, but it isn't just about saving the money. It's about making sure that dogs are on a grain-free dog food. It's so important. And that the amount of meat that's in dog food is at least 50%. It's wrong how much some dog food companies, they're putting like 2, 3, 4, 5% of meat into a dog food. That's terrible. And so this is 50%. So I'm very, very pleased with that indeed. Please, as I'm sure you are expecting me to say it, will you let me know how your dogs are getting on with this? I'm so interested. I love your stories. I love hearing about how you're getting on. And I'm really interested if your dog's got hot spots, if you're feeding them this, and if it's stopped, which I'm 100% sure it's going to. Please, 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 will you let me know? And of course, something else I'll be interested in, variation you're doing on this, be really interested. And if you're in different countries, which I know an awful lot of you are, apart from the UK, can you please tell me where you're getting your meat from that's a good price for this, so that other people in your country can go there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you and your dogs have a great day, and I'll see you on Thursday in the next video. Bye bye.